Like, subscribe, and turn on notification for more amazing video. Respect!
One armed human ordered an alien bride, her secret wealth he saved his burned-down farm. The dust of Kasser clung to everything. Ryan's boots, his clothes, the stubble on his jaw. Even his dreams were coated in it these days. He wiped sweat from his brow with his remaining arm and surveyed what was left of the farm. Not much, just charred beams reaching toward the sky like accusing fingers and the acrid smell of smoke that wouldn't leave his nostrils. "Goddamn heat regulators," he muttered, kicking at a blackened piece of machinery. The farm had been struggling before the fire. Now it was just dead. Ryan McCormack hadn't always been a farmer. Once he'd been Lieutenant McCormack, decorated soldier in the Terran Defense Force. That was before Proxima Centauri, before watching his unit get slaughtered, before losing his arm to a Krell plasma cutter. The military had given him a fancy prosthetic that never quite felt right, so he'd pawned it for enough credits to buy this patch of alien soil. "Gonna be a real farmer," he told himself then. "Gonna grow something instead of destroying it for a change." Fat lot of good that did him now. The twin suns of Kasser were setting, casting long shadows across the devastation. Ryan took a pull from his canteen, the lukewarm water barely quenching his thirst. He'd have to head into town tomorrow, see if old Harker would extend his credit again. Maybe he could pick up work as a security consultant. One-armed or not, he still knew how to handle himself. A distant rumble caught his attention. Not thunder. Kasser rarely saw rain, but the sound of an approaching shuttle. Odd. Nobody came out this way unless they had to. The small craft appeared over the horizon, sleek despite the dust coating its hull. It circled once, then descended toward the clearing near what used to be his landing pad. Ryan's hand instinctively moved to the blaster at his hip. Old habits. The shuttle settled with a hiss of hydraulics, and the hatch opened. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a figure emerged, slender, feminine, and unmistakably alien. Her skin was a vibrant blue that seemed to capture the fading sunlight, and her silver blue braids were wrapped neatly into a thick bun adorned with thin metal rings. She wore a form-fitting gray outfit with a short skirt that revealed shapely legs. In each hand, she carried a heavy-looking suitcase. Ryan stood frozen, trying to process what he was seeing. Then it hit him. The ad. 6 months ago, in a moment of drunken loneliness, he'd posted on the Interstellar Matchmaking Network. "Human veteran seeks companion for remote farm life. Species irrelevant. Must enjoy hard work and solitude." He'd forgotten all about it the next morning. The alien woman approached, her bright eyes taking in the charred remains of the farmhouse. Her movements were graceful despite the obvious weight of her luggage. "Sorry I'm a little late," she said with a shy smile, her voice carrying a musical accent he couldn't place. Ryan could only stare, then sigh heavily. "You're too late. There's nothing left to save." She looked at him with unwavering eyes and replied firmly, "You're wrong, human man. I didn't just bring luggage. I brought the resources to rebuild your farm, and maybe our lives." "Look, miss." "Enila," she supplied. "Enila Nix of the Lysian Collective." "Enila," Ryan said, testing the name. "I appreciate you coming all this way, but as you can see, there's not much of a farm left. Not much of anything left." She set down her suitcases and approached him, studying his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. The advertisement said hard work and solitude. It didn't specify a functioning farm. Her lips curved into a smile. "Besides, I've always enjoyed a challenge." Ryan ran his hand through his dust-caked hair. "Why would you answer an ad like that anyway? The Lysian Collective is wealthy, technologically advanced. What could you possibly want here?" "Perhaps I wanted something real," she said, glancing around. "Something that isn't manufactured or programmed or perfectly designed." Her eyes returned to his. "Perhaps I wanted freedom." The last rays of sunlight caught the metal rings in her hair, sending little flashes of light dancing across the charred ground. Ryan felt something stir inside him, something he thought had burned away long ago. "I've got a shelter set up in what's left of the storage shed," he said finally. "It's not much, but it's better than nothing. We can figure out the rest tomorrow." Enla nodded and picked up her suitcases again. "Lead the way, Ryan McCormick." He started, then remembered he'd included his name in the ad. "Just Ryan is fine." "Just Ryan it is, then." She followed him across the ash-strewn yard, her footsteps light despite her burden. As they walked, Ryan couldn't help but wonder what kind of desperation or madness would bring someone like her to a place like this, and what exactly she meant by resources. Whatever her reasons, he had a feeling things were about to get a lot more complicated, and maybe, just maybe, a little less lonely. Dawn broke over Kassar with its usual merciless glare. Ryan woke to the unfamiliar sound of movement in his makeshift shelter. For a moment, his hand reached for the blaster under his pillow. Then he remembered. Anila, the alien bride who'd shown up at the worst possible time. She was already awake, her blue skin almost luminescent in the early morning light as she unpacked one of her mysterious suitcases. Ryan watched silently, noticing how she kept glancing nervously toward the door. "Morning," he finally said, sitting up on his cot. Enela startled, quickly closing the suitcase. "Good morning. I hope I didn't wake you." Military habits. Light sleeper. He stretched, wincing at the phantom pain in his missing arm. "What's in the case that's got you so jumpy?" Her bright eyes met his, calculating. After a moment, she seemed to make a decision. "I wasn't entirely forthcoming yesterday." She sat on the edge of her cot, facing him. "I'm not just any Lycian seeking adventure. I'm Anila Nix, daughter of Counselor Theron Nix." Ryan whistled low. "Nobility, huh? Slumming it with a one-armed farmer?" "Fleeing," she corrected. "My father arranged my marriage to Lord Drax Vorn, a man known for his collection of exotic wives who mysteriously disappear when he tires of them." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Sounds like a real charmer." "Indeed." Her fingers traced the metal rings in her hair. When I refused, I was informed my consent was irrelevant. The ceremony was scheduled for the next lunar cycle." She patted the suitcase beside her. "So I took what was rightfully mine? Family heirlooms, untraceable currency, and some technology that could be useful here, and answered your advertisement." "You're on the run," Ryan summarized, "and those suitcases are full of stolen goods." "Not stolen," she said firmly. "My mother's legacy, meant for me upon her death. My father simply accelerated the timeline of my inheritance." Ryan ran his hand through his hair. "So there'll be people looking for you?" "Eventually. But I covered my tracks well, and the Lycian collective rarely ventures this far into human territory. They consider it beneath them." Before Ryan could respond, a rumbling sound approached from the east. He was on his feet instantly, blaster in hand. "Stay here," he ordered, but Anila was already following him to the door. Outside, a caravan of 3 battered hover carts approached, kicking up dust clouds. Ryan relaxed slightly when he recognized the lead vehicle. "Neighbors," he explained to Anila, "though I'm surprised to see them." The hover carts stopped at what used to be the edge of Ryan's property. From the first one emerged a stocky, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms and a face that seemed to be all eyes. "McCormick," the alien called, waving 2 of his arms. "Heard about the fire. Brought some supplies." "Grell," Ryan nodded, holstering his blaster. "Wasn't expecting a welcome wagon." The other hover carts disgorged their occupants. A tall, insectoid Thrix female and a pair of reptilian saurians. All carried crates and tools. "When the emergency beacon went off, we figured you'd need help," Grell said, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. Then he noticed Anila. "Oh, you have company." "This is Anila," Ryan said simply. "She's staying with me for a while." The alien neighbors exchanged meaningful glances. The Thrix's antennae twitched in what Ryan recognized as amusement. "About time," Grell said, slapping Ryan on the back with one of his lower arms. "Human males shouldn't be alone." "Bad for the spirit, yes." "We brought building materials," the Thrix female chittered, "and seedlings from our greenhouse. The fire didn't reach your irrigation system, did it?" Ryan shook his head, still processing their unexpected generosity. "No, that's still intact, Kiri." "But why would you—" "You helped my clutch when the dust fever came," Kiri interrupted. "Humans say it, What goes around comes around. And you pulled my son from the quicksand last season, one of the Saurians added, his forked tongue flicking between words. Enola watched the exchange with growing interest. You've made quite an impression on your neighbors, just Ryan, she murmured. The aliens set to work immediately, clearing debris and salvaging what could be saved. Ryan worked alongside them, his single arm doing the work of two. Enola joined in, revealing surprising strength for her slender frame. During a water break, Grell sidled up to Ryan. Your new mate, she's Lazian, yes? Rare to see them this far out. She's not my, Ryan began, then sighed. Yeah, she's Lysian. Grell's eyes blinked rapidly. Be careful, friend. Lysians don't leave their golden cities without reason. Usually bad reasons. Ryan glanced over at Enola, who was deep in conversation with Kiri. I know. She's running from something. Or someone, Grell corrected. Just watch your back. Humans are good, trustworthy. Not all aliens share your values. As the day progressed, the farm began to take shape again. The neighbors had brought enough materials to construct a simple dwelling, and done nothing fancy, but solid enough to keep out the dust and heat. By sunset, Ryan had a roof over his head again, and the beginnings of a plan for replanting his fields. As the neighbors prepared to leave, Kiri approached Enola. You have good hands for farming, the Thrix observed. Strong but gentle. The human is lucky you came. Enola smiled, her bright eyes reflecting the setting suns. I think perhaps I'm the lucky one. Later, as Ryan and Enola sat outside their new shelter, eating a simple meal provided by the Saurians, he finally asked the question that had been bothering him all day. Why did you really answer my ad? Out of all the places in the galaxy you could have run to. Enola looked up at the emerging stars. Humans have a reputation, you know, for resilience, for kindness beneath the roughness. Her eyes met his. For protecting what's theirs, no matter the cost. Ryan felt a warmth that had nothing to do with Casser's climate. And is that what you're looking for? Protection? Perhaps, she said softly. Or perhaps I'm looking for a place where I can finally be more than someone's daughter or someone's bride. Her hand reached across the space between them, fingers brushing his. A place where I can simply be Enola. The touch sent an electric current through Ryan's body, awakening feelings he'd thought long dead. As Enola's bright eyes held his gaze, he realized that despite everything, the fire, her secrets, his own broken past, something new was taking root in the ashes of his farm. Something that might just be worth fighting for. A week passed in a blur of activity. With the help of their alien neighbors and Enola's inheritance, the farm was transforming at an astonishing rate. Ryan had never seen anything like it. You're sure this isn't illegal tech? He asked, watching a gleaming silver machine reshape the soil in perfect rows. Enola adjusted something on a control panel, her blue fingers dancing across the interface. Perfectly legal, just so expensive. The Agriform 9000 is standard equipment on Lysian estates. Standard equipment that cost more than this entire planet, Ryan muttered. She flashed him a smile that made his chest tighten. Perhaps, but the results speak for themselves. She wasn't wrong. Already the first seedlings were sprouting in the newly fertile soil. The irrigation system had been upgraded with filtration technology that made Casser's mineral-heavy water ideal for crops. A sleek new dwelling had replaced the makeshift shelter, complete with amenities Ryan hadn't enjoyed since before the war. It was almost too good to be true. And in Ryan's experience, things that seemed too good to be true usually were. His suspicions were confirmed that afternoon when Grell's eldest son came racing across the fields, all four arms pumping frantically. McCormick, the young alien called, skidding to a halt in front of Ryan. Ship in orbit. Lysian design. Ryan's blood ran cold. He found Enola by the eastern field, supervising a planting drone. We've got company, he said quietly. Lysian ship in orbit. The color drained from her blue face. How? I was so careful. The equipment, Ryan realized. Top-of-the-line Lysian tech suddenly activating on a backwater planet? Might as well have sent up a flare. Enola's hands trembled as she shut down the drone. I'm sorry, I didn't think. No time for that now. Ryan took her arm, leading her toward the house. We need to hide this stuff, and you need to stay out of sight. Inside, Ryan activated the security system, another of Enila's upgrades, and began pulling down the window shields. They'll have scanners, Enila said, pacing nervously. Heat signatures, DNA trackers, standard procedure for recovering valuable assets. The bitterness in her voice was palpable. Ryan considered their options. The old smuggler's cellar. The previous owner dug it out during the embargo. It's lined with sensor-blocking materials. As they prepared the hiding place, Ryan's comm unit buzzed. It was Kiri. Human friend, the Thrix's voice chittered through the speaker. Officials at the trading post asking questions. Looking for Lycian female? Offering rewards. Thanks for the warning, Ryan replied. Keep them talking if you can. He turned to Enila, who was removing the metal rings from her hair with shaking fingers. They'll be looking for a noble woman, she explained. These are family crests. Dead giveaways. Ryan nodded, then reached for a cabinet. I've got some old work clothes that might help. Nothing fancy, but perfect, she said, taking the faded coveralls. Their fingers brushed, lingering longer than necessary. A moment of tension stretched between them, charged with unspoken feelings. Ryan found himself stepping closer, drawn by something he couldn't name. I should change, Enila whispered, her bright eyes holding his. Right, Ryan said, but didn't move. The security system chimed, breaking the spell. A vehicle was approaching. Damn it, Ryan muttered, checking the monitor. A sleek hover transport bearing official markings was making its way toward the farm. Into the cellar. Now. Enila disappeared down the hidden hatch with her suitcases just as the transport landed. Ryan took a deep breath, composed his features, and went outside to meet their visitors. Two Lycians emerged from the transport, tall, blue-skinned, and radiating arrogance. They wore the distinctive uniforms of the Collective's Enforcement Division. Human, the first one addressed Ryan without preamble. I am Inspector Talus of the Lycian Collective. We are conducting a search for a missing citizen. Ryan leaned casually against the doorframe. Don't get many Lycians out here. Pretty far from your golden cities. The inspector's eyes narrowed. Our scanners detected Lycian technology activating in this sector. Highly unusual. Is it? Ryan shrugged his single shoulder. Bought some equipment at auction last month. Military surplus. Getting the farm back on its feet after a fire? Military surplus, the second Lycian repeated skeptically. May we examine this equipment? Sure thing, Ryan said amiably. Just need to see your search warrant first. Human territory, human laws. The inspectors exchanged glances. We are pursuing a fugitive, Talus said stiffly. A noblewoman who has absconded with valuable family property. Sounds serious, Ryan nodded. Still gonna need that warrant. The second inspector stepped forward menacingly. Perhaps you don't understand the importance. Perhaps you don't understand how things work out here, Ryan interrupted, his hand casually moving to rest on his blaster. This is frontier territory. We respect the rule of law, but we also respect property rights. No warrant, no search. A tense silence followed. Ryan knew he was taking a risk, but years in the military had taught him that showing weakness to bullies only invited more aggression. Finally, Inspector Talus stepped back. We will return with the proper documentation. In the meantime, be advised that harboring a fugitive from the Collective is a serious offense. I'll keep that in mind, Ryan said pleasantly. Have a safe journey back to wherever. He watched as they returned to their transport, his friendly smile never wavering. Only when they had disappeared over the horizon did he allow his shoulders to relax. Inside, he opened the cellar hatch. Enila looked up at him, now dressed in the worn coveralls, her elegant braids hidden under a dust-stained cap. They're gone? She asked. For now, Ryan confirmed, helping her up. But they'll be back with paperwork next time. Enila's face fell. I've put you in danger. I should leave. And go where? Ryan asked. Besides, I'm not exactly new to danger. She looked around at the farm, at all they'd accomplished in just a week. I never meant for this to happen. I just wanted... Her voice trailed off. Freedom, Ryan finished for her. I get it. Had the same feeling after the war. Couldn't stand taking orders anymore. Not after what happened at Proxima. Their eyes met, understanding passing between them. Two runners, each seeking escape from their past. "We need a plan," Ryan said finally. "Those inspectors will be back, and next time they'll have authority to tear this place apart." Enola nodded, determination replacing fear on her face. "Then we'd better make sure they find exactly what they expect to find, and nothing more." The news spread through the small farming community like wildfire. By nightfall, Ryan's newly rebuilt home was filled with an unlikely gathering of species. Grell and his family, Kiri and 3 other Thrix, the Saurian couple, and even old Harker, the grizzled human who ran the trading post. "So," Harker said, leaning his weathered frame against the kitchen counter, "you've got Lysian authorities sniffing around." "Bad business, that?" Ryan nodded, surveying the crowded room. "They'll be back with warrants. Probably tomorrow." "Which is why we need your help," Enola added, still wearing her disguise. The alien woman looked remarkably different in the worn coveralls, her elegant bearing muted, but not entirely hidden. Grell's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "The humans saved my children. We help. And he pulled my son from the quicksand," the male Saurian added, his scaled tail twitching with agitation. "Humans don't abandon their friends. We learned this from them." Ryan felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with Kasser's climate. These aliens, so different from him in form and culture, were willing to risk Lysian wrath for his sake. Kiri stepped forward, her insectoid features unreadable to most, but Ryan had learned to recognize the subtle shifts in her antennae that indicated deep thought. "I propose this," she chittered. "The Lysian female becomes Thrix refugee. My third clutch sister died 2 seasons ago. No body recovered in Sandstorm. We say she is this one." "But I look nothing like a Thrix," Enola objected. Kiri's mandibles clicked in what Ryan recognized as amusement. "Thrix have metamorphosis cycle. Final form varies. Some look more mammalian. Rare mutation, but documented." "And the equipment?" Ryan asked. Grell raised 2 of his forearms. "I sold to you. Got from salvage operation near Lysian trade routes. Have documentation." He winked several eyes in sequence. "We'll have documentation by morning." Harker chuckled. "And I'll back it up. Been running that trading post for 20 years. My word counts for something, even with Lysian bureaucrats." As the aliens continued planning, adding layers of deceptions in misdirection, Ryan felt Enola's hand slip into his. He looked down to find her bright eyes studying him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "These people," she whispered. "They're risking so much. For you." "For us," he corrected. "No human on Lycia would do this for an alien," she said softly. "Our culture teaches that other species are lesser, especially humans, with your short lives and primitive technology." Ryan squeezed her hand. "Maybe that's why you answered my ad. Deep down, you knew that was bullshit." A smile tugged at her lips. "Perhaps, or perhaps I simply found your picture intriguing." "My picture?" Ryan blinked. "I didn't include a picture." Enola's blue skin darkened slightly in what he now recognized as a blush. "The matchmaking service automatically pulls public records. Your military file had quite the impressive image." Ryan laughed, the sound drawing curious glances from their alien conspirators. For the first time since the fire, no, since long before that, he felt something like hope taking root inside him. Later, after their visitors had departed with plans to reconvene before the inspector's return, Ryan and Anila stood on the porch of their new home. The night was cool, the desert surrendering its heat to the vast, star-filled sky. In the distance, the newly planted fields gleamed faintly under the light of Kassar's 3 moons. "It's beautiful," Enila said, her voice hushed. "I never imagined finding beauty in such a harsh place." Ryan looked at her profile, the blue of her skin almost luminescent in the moonlight. "I'm starting to see beauty everywhere these days." She turned to him, something vulnerable in her expression. "Ryan, if this doesn't work—" "It will," he said firmly. "But if it doesn't," she insisted, "I want you to know that answering your advertisement was the best decision I've ever made." The air between them seemed to charge with electricity. Ryan moved closer, his hand coming up to brush a stray strand of silver-blue hair from her face. Enola leaned into his touch, her bright eyes half closing. "In Lycian culture," she murmured, "a touch like this would be considered a formal declaration of intent." "And what about this?" Ryan asked, his voice rough as he leaned down, closing the distance between them. Their lips met, tentative at first, then with growing hunger. Enola's arms wound around his neck as she pressed herself against him, her body fitting perfectly against his despite their alien differences. Ryan's arm encircled her waist, pulling her closer still, not lost in the sweet, unfamiliar taste of her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Enola's eyes were wide with wonder. "That was not in any of the human cultural briefings I studied." Ryan laughed softly. "Some things you have to experience firsthand." She traced the line of his jaw with delicate blue fingers. "I find I'm quite interested in experiencing more of human culture, particularly with you as my guide." Their second kiss was deeper, more urgent. Ryan felt a lifetime of loneliness melting away under her touch, replaced by a fierce, protective desire. Whatever came tomorrow, Lycian inspectors, warrants, or worse, he would face it, for her, for them. They moved inside, the door closing behind them as they sought the privacy of their new home. In the darkness of Ryan's bedroom, alien and human discovered each other, differences in biology forgotten in the universal language of desire. Their coming together was both strange and familiar, awkward and perfect, a bridge between worlds neither had expected to cross. Afterward, as Enola lay curled against his side, her blue skin a stark contrast to his tan human flesh, Ryan stared at the ceiling and marveled at the turns his life had taken. From decorated soldier to broken veteran to failing farmer, and now somehow to a man with something precious to protect. "What are you thinking?" Enola asked sleepily, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. Ryan pressed a kiss to her forehead. "That for the first time since the war, I'm not just surviving anymore." She raised herself on one elbow to look at him, her bright eyes serious in the dim light. "Neither am I." As they drifted towards sleep, entwined in each other's arms, neither noticed the faint light on the horizon. Not the glow of dawn, but the distinctive shimmer of a Lycian diplomatic vessel entering Kassar's atmosphere. Dawn broke over Kassar with its usual harsh brilliance, but Ryan woke before the first light. Something felt wrong. He carefully disentangled himself from Anila's sleeping form, pausing to admire how the early morning glow highlighted the contours of her blue skin against his sheets. Last night had changed everything between them, crossing boundaries of species and culture in ways that left him feeling both vulnerable and strangely powerful. But now wasn't the time to dwell on that. He pulled on his pants and moved silently to the window, peering through a gap in the blinds. "Shit," he muttered. Outside, parked with ostentatious precision on his newly cleared landing pad, sat a vessel that made the inspector's transport look like a child's toy. Its polished hull gleamed with the unmistakable pearlescent sheen of Lycian diplomatic craft, and its size suggested it carried more than just bureaucrats. "What is it?" Enola's voice came from behind him, sleep-roughened but alert. "Company," Ryan replied, turning to find her wrapped in his sheet, her silver blue hair tumbling loose around her shoulders. "Expensive company." She joined him at the window, and he felt her stiffen beside him. "That's a Vorn family crest on the hull," she whispered, fear threading through her voice. "He's here." "And Drax is here." Ryan's jaw tightened. "How would he track you here?" "My genetic signature," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "All Lycian nobility are encoded with traceable markers from birth. It's meant to prevent kidnapping, but it makes running away a hell of a lot harder," Ryan finished. He moved away from the window, mind racing through options. "How long before they come knocking?" As if in answer, a deep, resonant tone echoed through the house, the diplomatic vessel's announcement system. "Attention, residence occupants," a cultured Lycian voice proclaimed. "This is Lord Drax Vorn of the Lycian High Houses. I request the immediate return of my betrothed, Lady Enola Nyx. Compliance will be rewarded. Resistance is inadvisable." Enola's face drained of color. "He can't legally enter without permission. Human territory laws..." You think that matters to him? Ryan asked, already moving to the bedroom's hidden compartment where he kept his military-grade weapons. Men like that don't care about laws when they want something. What are you doing? Enela asked as he pulled out a compact pulse rifle and checked its charge. Getting ready to negotiate, Ryan replied grimly. Get dressed. We need to contact the others before… Another announcement cut him off. I am aware of your deception attempts, Lady Enela. The presence of lesser species as conspirators has been noted. They will not be harmed if you surrender willingly within the hour. Ryan cursed. He's monitoring communications. Probably has the whole area under surveillance. Enela's hands trembled as she pulled on her coveralls. This is my fault. I should never have come here. Ryan crossed to her, taking her face in his hand. Hey, look at me. When her bright eyes met his, he continued. Last night, you said coming here was the best decision you ever made. I'm starting to think it was the best thing that ever happened to me too. So no regrets, all right? Her lips curved into a small smile. No regrets. They sealed the promise with a kiss that carried echoes of the night before, tender yet urgent, a declaration without words. When they broke apart, Ryan's expression hardened with resolve. Now let's figure out how to deal with your ex-fiancé. 30 minutes later, they had a plan, risky but better than surrender. Ryan contacted Grell using an old military frequency the Lycians were unlikely to monitor, arranging for a diversion at the north end of the property. Meanwhile, Enela prepared a small pack with essentials from her mysterious suitcases. You're sure about this? Ryan asked, watching her select items with practiced efficiency. Drax collects wives like trophies, she said, her voice flat. The last one who displeased him was found floating in the ornamental lake at his estate. The official ruling was suicide, of course. Ryan's blood boiled at the thought. He's not getting anywhere near you. A soft chime from the security system alerted them to movement outside. On the monitor, they watched as a procession emerged from the diplomatic vessel. 6 Lycian guards in ceremonial armor, followed by a tall figure draped in elaborate robes of midnight blue. That's him, Enela whispered. Ryan studied the alien lord with a soldier's eye. Drax Vorn moved with the languid confidence of someone accustomed to absolute authority. His blue skin was several shades darker than Enela's, almost indigo, and adorned with intricate silver markings that Ryan guessed signified his noble status. Unlike the warmth in Enela's bright eyes, Vorn's gaze was cold and calculating as he surveyed the farm. Time to go, Ryan said, shouldering his rifle. Back door, just like we planned. They slipped out through the kitchen and into the equipment shed, where Ryan had prepared an old but reliable hover bike, the kind of battered transport that wouldn't trigger sophisticated scanners. The tunnel entrance is a quarter-mile east, Ryan explained, mounting the bike and helping Enela climb on behind him. Old smuggler's route comes out near Harker's trading post. Enela's arms tightened around his waist. What about you? Our plan was for both of us to escape. Ryan started the engine, its quiet hum barely audible. Change of plans. I'm going to make sure they follow me north while you head east. Grell's distraction should buy us enough time. No, Enela protested. They'll kill you. Not if I can help it, Ryan grinned over his shoulder. Besides, I've got a few tricks left from my military days. Before she could argue further, an explosion rocked the northern perimeter. Grell's diversion right on schedule. Shouts and the whine of energy weapons filled the air. That's our cue, Ryan said, gunning the hoverbike's engine and shooting out of the shed's rear exit. They sped across the newly planted fields, keeping low to avoid detection. Ryan felt Enela pressed against his back, her arms around his waist, her cheek against his shoulder. In that moment, despite the danger, or perhaps because of it, he felt more alive than he had in years. When they reached the fork that would separate their paths, Ryan slowed the bike. Remember the plan? Get to Harker's. He'll contact my old commander. Enela's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. This isn't fair. I finally found something real, and now… Ryan cut her off with a fierce kiss. This isn't goodbye. It's just a tactical retreat. I'll find you. She nodded, her expression shifting from fear to determination. Be careful, human man. Always am, he lied, helping her off the bike. Now go. As Enla disappeared into the tunnel entrance, Ryan revved the hoverbike's engine and turned north, directly toward the Lycian guards who had spotted him from the distance. He smiled grimly as they scrambled to their vehicles. "Come on, you blue bastards," he muttered. "Let's see if you can catch a one-armed human." Ryan's hoverbike screamed across the desert terrain, kicking up a plume of dust that glowed orange in the morning light. The Lycian pursuit vehicles were faster, sleeker, but they didn't know the land like he did. 20 years of military training and 2 years of farming on Kassar had taught him every ridge, every dune, every treacherous patch of quicksand. He led them through a narrow canyon where their wider vehicles struggled to navigate, then across a dried-up riverbed filled with jagged rocks that tore at their pristine hulls. One by one, the pursuit vehicles fell back or suffered damage, until only one remained, the largest and most ornate, which Ryan guessed carried Lord Vorn himself. "Persistent bastard," Ryan muttered, glancing back at the gleaming vessel that showed no signs of abandoning the chase. His plan had been to lead them far north, then double back to meet Inyala at Harker's trading post. But the remaining Lycian ship was too close, too determined. He needed to end this. Ryan veered toward the Whispering Cliffs, a treacherous formation of razor-sharp rock spires that locals avoided. Threading his small hoverbike between the stone teeth, he heard the satisfying crunch of metal as the Lycian vessel clipped a spire, sending it into a controlled but definite descent. He circled back, watching from a safe distance as the damaged ship settled onto a relatively flat area. The hatch opened, and Lord Drax Vorn emerged, flanked by 2 guards. Even from a distance, Ryan could feel the cold fury radiating from the Lycian nobleman. "Human," Vorn's amplified voice carried across the desert. "You've demonstrated admirable skill. I propose a conversation rather than further pursuit." Ryan snorted. "A conversation?" Right. Still, he was curious what the alien lord would say, and he needed to buy more time for Enla to reach safety. He guided his hoverbike to a position that offered both visibility and a quick escape route, keeping his pulse rifle ready. "I'm listening," Ryan called back, not bothering to hide the hostility in his voice. Vorn approached alone, his ornate robes fluttering in the desert wind. Up close, Ryan could see the intricate silver markings on his indigo skin more clearly. They weren't just decorative, but seemed to shimmer with some kind of embedded technology. "Lieutenant Ryan McCormick," Vorn said, his accent making the human name sound exotic. "Decorated veteran of the Proxima Centauri campaign, honorable discharge following injury, recipient of the Star of Terra for valor under fire." "You've done your homework," Ryan replied, keeping his expression neutral despite his surprise. "What do you want?" "Initially, merely the return of my betrothed," Vorn said, with a dismissive wave. "A simple matter of Lycian custom and law. But now," his cold eyes narrowed. "Now I understand Lady Enela has brought something far more valuable to your little farm." Ryan's grip tightened on his rifle. "The lady didn't bring anything but herself and some clothes." Vorn's laugh was like ice cracking. "Come now, Lieutenant. Our scanners detected the activation of multiple high-value Lycian artifacts, items that have been in the Nix family vault for generations." He stepped closer. "Items that could shift the balance of power in the collective." "Not interested in your politics," Ryan said flatly. "No? Then perhaps you're interested in your farm, your freedom, your life." Vorn's voice hardened. "Tell me where Lady Enela has hidden the Ancestral Codex, and you can keep all 3. Ryan kept his face carefully blank, though his mind raced. Ancestral Codex? Enela hadn't mentioned anything like that. What the hell had she brought with her? "Here's my counteroffer," Ryan said. "You get back in your fancy ship, fly back to your golden cities, and forget you ever heard of Anila Nix or Ryan McCormick." Vorn's expression shifted to something almost like pity. "You've betted her, haven't you? I can smell her on you." He shook his head. "Humans, so easily manipulated by basic biological urges. Did she tell you she loved you? That she chose you specifically from all the responses to her advertisement?" Ryan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. "She didn't tell you there was no advertisement, did she?" Vorn continued, circling slowly. That she selected your remote farm precisely because it offered isolation and access to human territory laws? That she studied your military record to ensure you had the skills to protect her while she activated the Codex? You're lying, Ryan said, though a seed of doubt had been planted. Am I? Vorn smiled coldly. Ask her about the previous 5 men she contacted before you. Ask what happened to them when they outlived their usefulness. Ryan's finger itched on the trigger of his rifle. One shot, and this smug alien bastard would be dust. But he needed information, and he wasn't a murderer. If she's so dangerous, Ryan said carefully, why are you so eager to marry her? Politics, of course. The Nix family controls key territories. With Enela as my wife and the Codex in my possession, my house would rise to supremacy. Vorn's eyes gleamed with ambition. I would even be willing to share some of that power. A human with your skills could be valuable in my court. Ryan laughed outright at that. Not interested in being anyone's pet human, thanks. Vorn's expression hardened. Then perhaps you'll be interested in this. He gestured and one of his guards approached, carrying a datapad. Images of Lord Vorn's previous wives, the guard announced, activating the display. Despite himself, Ryan looked. The images showed 5 different alien women, all beautiful in their own ways, all looking vacant-eyed and subdued. The final image made his blood run cold. A blue-skinned Lycian woman floating face down in ornate waters. Tragic accident, Vorn said with mock sadness. She was unstable. As Lady Anila will be declared if she continues this defiance. Ryan had heard enough. In one fluid motion, he swung his rifle up and fired, not at Vorn, but at the datapad, which exploded in a shower of sparks. The guard dropped it with a yelp of pain. Next shot won't miss you, Ryan warned, aiming directly at Vorn's chest. Get back in your ship. Vorn's face contorted with rage. You dare! I dare a lot worse than that, Ryan cut him off. I've killed plenty of aliens who thought humans were easy prey. Don't add yourself to the list. For a tense moment, Ryan thought Vorn would order his guards to attack. Instead, the Lycian lord composed himself with visible effort. This isn't over, human, he said coldly. When Lady Anila activates the Codex, every Lycian vessel in the sector will detect it. You can't hide her forever? Watch me, Ryan replied. As Vorn and his guards retreated to their damaged vessel, Ryan's mind whirled with questions. Was Anila using him? Was the Codex, whatever it was, the real reason she'd come to his farm? And what had happened to those other men Vorn mentioned? He needed answers, and there was only one person who could provide them. Gunning the hoverbike's engine, Ryan set course for Harker's trading post, where Anila should be waiting, if she'd gone there at all. The suns climbed higher as he sped across the desert, casting harsh light on the landscape and on his own doubts. He thought of their night together, of the vulnerability in her bright eyes, of the way she'd marveled at the simple kindness of his alien neighbors. Had it all been an act? Or was Vorn the one lying, trying to drive a wedge between them? Only one way to find out. Ryan pushed his hoverbike to its limits, the engine whining in protest as he raced across the desert. His mind churned with Vorn's accusations, yet something deep in his gut told him not to believe the Lycian lord. He'd seen truth in Anila's eyes during their night together, a vulnerability no one could fake. Halfway to Harker's trading post, he spotted a small figure trudging through the sand. Even from a distance, the blue skin gleaming in the sunlight was unmistakable. Ryan gunned the engine, closing the distance in seconds. Anila! He called, bringing the hoverbike to a skidding halt beside her. She turned, her bright eyes widening with relief and joy. Ryan, you're alive! She threw herself into his arm, nearly knocking him off the bike. I felt something was wrong. I couldn't stay hidden while you were in danger. Ryan held her tightly, breathing in her scent, feeling her warmth against him. In that moment, his doubts seemed foolish. Still, he needed answers. Vorn mentioned something called the Ancestral Codex, he said, pulling back to study her face. Said that's what you really came for? Anila's expression shifted from joy to resignation. He found us faster than I expected. She sighed, looking out across the barren landscape. We should return to the farm. There's something I need to show you. The ride back was tense, both of them scanning the horizon for signs of Lycian pursuit. To Ryan's surprise, the farm appeared untouched, the newly constructed dwelling standing peaceful in the morning light. Inside, Anila went straight to the hidden compartment where she'd stashed her suitcases. She removed one and placed it on the table between them. I wasn't entirely truthful about what I brought with me, she admitted, her fingers tracing the case's intricate lock. But I never lied about why I came. The lock recognized her touch, clicking open to reveal a device unlike anything Ryan had seen before. A sphere of what looked like liquid metal, pulsing with soft blue light. This is the Ancestral Codex, Anila said softly. My mother's legacy. Not a weapon, as Vorn believes, but a gift. The culmination of her life's work before my father had her research suppressed. What does it do? Ryan asked, mesmerized by the shifting patterns within the sphere. It transforms barren worlds, Anila explained, her voice filled with reverence. My mother developed it to help colonies on resource-poor planets. The Lycian elite feared it would disrupt their control over resource distribution. She looked up at Ryan, her eyes earnest. I chose your farm specifically, yes, but not to use you. I needed a place to test it, away from Lycian control. And the advertisement? Ryan asked, the last of his doubts surfacing. Anila's blue skin darkened with a blush. I searched for someone who might understand what I was trying to do. When I saw your profile, a soldier who chose to build rather than destroy, who sought connection despite his losses, I hoped you might be that person. Her fingers brushed his. I didn't expect to find so much more. Ryan's heart swelled at her words. He took her hand, squeezing it gently. So this thing can save our farm? It can make it flourish beyond your wildest dreams, she promised. But once activated, every Lycian in the sector will detect its energy signature. Vorn will return with reinforcements. Ryan's military mind quickly assessed their options. How long does it take to work? Full transformation takes about 12 hours, Anila said, but we'd see the first effects within minutes. Ryan nodded decisively. Then we activate it now and prepare for company. The next hour was a flurry of activity. Ryan contacted their alien neighbors using the secure frequency, explaining the situation in terse terms. To his gratification, but not surprise, they immediately pledged their support. Grell arrived first with his sons, all armed with farming tools converted to makeshift weapons. Kiri and her Thrix brought specialized traps designed to incapacitate rather than kill. The Saurians positioned themselves as lookouts on the perimeter. Even old Harker showed up, carrying a vintage military-grade shield generator. Been saving this for a rainy day, the grizzled human said with a wink. Guess this qualifies. As their unlikely defense force assembled, Anila prepared the codex in the center of the farm's main field. Ryan watched in awe as she communed with the device, her fingers dancing across its surface, whispering words in an ancient Lycian dialect. The sphere began to pulse more rapidly, its blue glow intensifying until Ryan had to shield his eyes. Then, with a sound like a gentle sigh, it sank into the ground and disappeared. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a ripple of movement spread outward from where the codex had vanished. The parched soil darkened, as if soaked by invisible rain. Tiny green shoots began to emerge, growing visibly before their eyes. It's working, Anila breathed, her face radiant with joy. Ryan pulled her close, marveling at the transformation. Your mother was a genius. She believed technology should serve life, not control it. Anila said, leaning into his embrace. My father never understood that. Their moment of wonder was interrupted by Kiri's warning call. Ships approaching. Multiple signatures. Ryan's expression hardened as he spotted the Lycian vessels on the horizon. Right on schedule. Everyone to positions. He led Anila to the dwelling, where they'd established a command center of sorts. Through the windows they watched as 3 Lycian ships descended, including Vorn's repaired diplomatic vessel. Stay inside, Ryan ordered, checking his pulse rifle. If things go south, there's an emergency tunnel under the kitchen floor. Use it. Anila caught his arm before he could leave. Ryan, He silenced her with a kiss that conveyed everything words couldn't. His trust, his commitment, his growing love. I know, he said simply when they parted. Me too. Outside, Ryan took position with Grell and Harker as the Lycian ships landed. Lord Vorn emerged first, his cold eyes taking in the defensive line of aliens and the single, one-armed human at their center. Behind him, a dozen guards formed a menacing phalanx. "This is your last chance, human," Vorn called. "Surrender the Codex and the woman, and you may yet live." Ryan stepped forward, his stance relaxed but ready. "The Codex is already activated. As for the woman, she's made her choice." Vorn's face contorted with rage. "Then you leave me no choice." He raised his hand to signal his guards. Before they could advance, a rumbling sound drew everyone's attention. The ground beneath their feet trembled. Around them, the transformation accelerated dramatically. Plants erupted from the soil, growing at impossible speeds. Vines snaked across the ground. Flowers burst into bloom, releasing clouds of pollen that sparkled in the sunlight. The Lycian guards faltered, confused by the rapidly changing landscape. Several backed away as the vegetation began to encroach on their position. "What trickery is this?" Vorn demanded, his composure cracking. "Not trickery," came Anila's voice as she emerged from the dwelling, her blue skin radiant against the new greenery. "Life. Something you've never truly understood, Drax." As if responding to her presence, the plants grew even more vigorously. Thick, thorny vines wrapped around the landing gear of the Lycian ships. Massive flowers unfurled, releasing spores that clogged the vessel's intake valves. Within minutes, the ships were effectively grounded. The Lycian guards looked to Vorn for direction, their confidence visibly wavering as the farm transformed around them into a lush paradise. "This is what my mother created," Anila continued, walking fearlessly toward Vorn. "Not a weapon, but a gift. One the collective desperately needs as our outer colonies fail." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Vorn's face. "The Council will never accept—" "The Council doesn't need to know," Ryan interrupted, moving to Anila's side. "Not yet. But imagine being the Lycian Lord who brings this technology home, the hero who saved the struggling colonies." Vorn's calculating mind was clearly working, reassessing the situation. "And what would you want in return?" "Anila's freedom," Ryan said firmly. "Official recognition that she's no longer your betrothed, and this planet left alone under our protection." A tense silence fell as Vorn considered the offer. Around them, the farm continued its miraculous transformation, desert giving way to fertile abundance. Finally, Vorn gave a curt nod. "I will require documentation of how the Codex functions." "You'll get enough to replicate its effects," Anila agreed, "but not to weaponize it." "Acceptable," Vorn said stiffly. "I shall return to the collective and reconsider certain arrangements." As the Lycian Lord and his guards retreated to their entangled ships, working to free them from the vegetation, Ryan turned to Anila with a grin. "Think he'll keep his word?" "He's ambitious enough to," she replied. "The glory of saving the colonies will outweigh his wounded pride." Their alien allies celebrated around them, marveling at the transformed landscape. Where once there had been dust and ash, now stood a vibrant oasis, fruit-bearing trees, fields of grain, flowers in impossible colors. As the Lycian ships finally broke free and disappeared into the sky, Ryan pulled Anila close. "So," he said, his voice husky with emotion, "about that mail-order bride arrangement." Anila laughed, the sound like music in the garden they'd created together. "I believe I fulfilled my end of the bargain. I did save your farm." "That you did," Ryan agreed, looking around at the paradise that had sprung from desolation. "But I'm thinking maybe we could renegotiate the terms." "Oh!" Her bright eyes sparkled with mischief. "What did you have in mind?" Ryan dropped to one knee, still holding her hand. "Something more permanent. If you'll have a one-armed human farmer." Anila's face softened with love. "I think I can manage that," she whispered, pulling him to his feet and into her arms. As they sealed their new agreement with a kiss, the farm around them continued to bloom, a testament to what could grow when hope, technology, and love found fertile ground.